A 17-year-old girl allegedly kills her father and little brother and reportedly tells the police she just couldn't resist the urge to kill. We're discussing this disturbing case with psychologist Dr. John Delatorre. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Just a frightening story for you out of Reno, Nevada that we're going to be talking about right now. A teenager is behind bars facing adult charges after police say she admitted to murdering her father and her brother. And now we know she tried to kill her little sister as well. We're talking about Mashenka Reid, 17 years old. She's currently locked up in Washoe County with no bail, charged with 2 counts of open murder with a deadly weapon and 1 count of attempted murder with a deadly weapon. Now, according to Nevada law, prosecutors can charge somebody with open murder if they believe that the suspect killed the victim, but it would be up to a judge or a jury to determine the level of offense, like first-degree murder or second-degree murder and so forth. But police say that Reid's father and brother, they were shot to death on February 9th in the middle of the afternoon. Reid allegedly called 911 saying, quote, "I shot my dad. I shot my brother. My brother is dead." Now, according to police reports, Reid told the dispatcher that she left the gun, a Walther PPS, in the home. When the dispatcher questioned Reid further, she reportedly said, "I just couldn't resist the urge to kill somebody." Reid said that her father taught her to use the gun in the past, but she looked up videos online to remind herself how to use it while her father was out getting all these materials to make pizza. And on that point, she allegedly asked her father to do that, to go out to stall for time. Police say that the little boy listed in the charging documents was around 4 or 5 years old. He was shot in the head, found lying on a couch, 2 gunshot wounds to the head. The father was found dead inside of the garage. This is according to law enforcement. He was shot multiple times in the chest and the back. And as I mentioned, Reid is also charged with attempted murder for allegedly trying to kill her little sister. Reid told police that she locked the 2-year-old in a bedroom before the shooting, but later tried to break into the room. She told police that she was either going to shoot the toddler or stab her. And police also found a knife in the home, which, again, seems to substantiate that account. What would cause somebody to do this? I'm sure you're asking that question. Well, when an officer asked Reid what happened to set things off for her, she reportedly said, "I guess about my mom running away from us." She told police that her mother left on December 15th and she hadn't heard from her since. However, she also said that she wasn't really close with her mother after her parents divorced, I believe in 2016. According to Reid, she was required to watch her younger siblings during the week while her father went to school. She says that her brother had autism and his behavior would make her angry. She also said that she had watched YouTube videos that inspired her to torture people. We need to get a better understanding of this. We really do. And to do that, I want to bring on psychologist Dr. John Delatorre, who's a frequent regular of ours here on the Law&Crime Network. Always love talking to him. Dr. John, great to have you here. Just a terrible story to talk about. But to be clear, you haven't examined Reid. You haven't looked at any medical reports, nothing like that. But with that caveat, let's discuss this. What are your initial thoughts?
It is absolutely terrifying to think about, someone within your own household is capable of engaging in this level of violence. And let's be clear, this is predatory violence. Everything that she's admitted to police officers suggests that she's been long since planning how she's going to engage in some kind of violent act against her family.
And the reason I would say that as well is the location of the injuries. Her brother shot in the head twice, father shot in the chest and back. 2 different locations of the bodies, right? So her brother found on the couch, father found in the garage. I haven't seen anything to suggest that she moved the bodies in any way, but if you're attacking people in 2 different locations, that means it doesn't happen at the same time. And where you're shooting them, I know she's charged with open murder, but that feels to me a clear-cut case of intent to kill, a clear-cut case of deliberating on that. What's your take on it?
Yeah, no, it's definitely premeditated in my mind, including watching all the videos about how to remind herself to even engage in the behavior. I wouldn't be surprised if her dad had decided that using the gun isn't really in anybody's best interest anymore, but he has it for whatever reason that he does. And maybe he forgets that he taught her access the gun. But because she hasn't been doing it a lot, she's now thinking about, well, how do I get back to learning? So she's watching YouTube videos, right? This is she's doing this under the guise, right? She's hiding it, right? She's not doing anything that her father would say, wait a minute, this is a problem. Let me try to fix this. She's hiding all of this stuff. So in my mind, it's premeditated.
Let's talk about the statements, the alleged statements. So she allegedly calls 911, says, I shot my dad. I shot my brother. My brother is dead. Then she says, I just couldn't resist the urge to kill somebody. What do you make of those statements?
Yeah, there's a lot of statements that I imagine we're going to talk about that suggest that there's some kind of underlying mental illness. Now, I want to be clear, mental illness does not cause violence.
Right.
However, there are definitely some aspects that she describes later on in which she's under a tremendous amount of stress. She's under a tremendous amount of pressure. And I think potentially she thought about harming herself, but for whatever reason was unable to do it. The only way that she could get that kind of frustration to vent, to have any kind of real catharsis, is to engage probably in fantasy type behaviors of violence until such time that the fantasy wasn't enough. And so she's ready and willing to admit that she wanted to do this.
Again, to be clear, you haven't looked at any of her medical records. You're looking at this from the outside like we all are. But is there a particular mental health condition that you are suspecting here?
I think what I actually think is because she's an adolescent and she doesn't have the coping resources that other adults would have. She's being parentified and she doesn't like it and she doesn't understand it. I think that there were some underlying issues that she needed to discuss that may not rise to the level of a mental disorder per se. However, she was put in a position for multiple reasons. She was put in a position in which she could no longer manage the developing and overwhelming emotions that she was having. And without an outlet, then all of a sudden that stuff becomes something very, very terrible for someone to deal with.
I have to mention Attorney Tom and Associates, one of our great sponsors here on Sidebar. Why do I want to mention them? Because if you're looking for a lawyer, Tom and his team, they not only have the legal knowledge and the legal skills, that's a given, but they care. They have genuine empathy for their clients and their situations. And finding the right legal help, somebody that you can trust, is so important in personal injury cases. I'm talking about whether you were hurt in a car wreck, a refinery explosion, maybe the victim of securities fraud. Maybe you received a notification that your information was included in a data breach. Maybe you got sick as a result of a bad drug or toxic exposure. And of course, there are many other kinds of situations. But the through line is Attorney Tom can help. And they have an impressive track record in these tough, tough cases. And by the way, you don't pay a dime until you win. That just further shows their commitment to your success. And look, if your case is not the best fit for Attorney Tom and his team, they still may be able to recommend you a lawyer using their national network of attorneys. But with Attorney Tom and his team, you're not just hiring a lawyer. You are gaining a powerful ally committed to justice and your well-being. So if you've suffered an injury and you need legal support, click the attorneytom.com/sidebar link pinned in the comments for a free consultation or dial 855-TOM-WINS. You also don't know if she's telling the truth. We talk about it a lot of times, malingering, where somebody is faking certain symptoms or saying certain things. We don't know if she's being fully transparent about these statements that she made. Now, again, she admitted to shooting her brother and dad. We can take that as true, considering all the evidence so far. But the idea that she felt this urge to do it, again, I don't know if she's telling the truth or not.
Yeah, and there's always something to be said about someone, malingering. But kind of what benefit does she have by saying these kinds of things? The one statement that I do think probably rings as a bit hollow was when she was asked about why, and she said it was because her mother left. Right? I think that rings a little bit hollow, and I think it rings hollow because I don't think she truly believes that, but she needed to find something that other people would understand as to why that would cause this thing. I do think that is an element of it, but I don't think it's the full reason why she started having a lot of these violent thoughts.
You asked what would be the incentive, perhaps an insanity defense. No, in the sense that if she really couldn't control her behavior, she really didn't know, she couldn't conform her actions to the law, Now, again, I mean, this is somebody who called 911. She had an acknowledgement of what she did was a crime. But at the same point, if someone can't control themselves, does that set you up for an insanity defense?
I think it's possible, but we also have to look at the level of sophistication or lack of sophistication in someone's thinking. Here we have someone that was very disorganized, right? She didn't wait until all of them were at the table, all eating together, and then just start blasting away. She found ways in which people were off guard. I mean, yeah, she put her littlest sibling in a locked room, but then couldn't find a way in. So, and then she ran out of bullets and then was going to stab her. So this is someone who's the thoughts and emotions and pressure of everything that was going on inside of her head kind of erupted. Now, no one ever just snaps, and I'm saying that she's probably been fantasizing about violence for a while. But this was the moment in time that she thought that she could do and engage in the behaviors. I don't think she's thinking about the legal consequences, right, and legal strategies at the time, or even when she's talking to the police. I don't think she's that sophisticated.
Maybe. I mean, she is a minor, but it is also interesting that you have somebody who's looking up torture and looking up how to use the gun. Is it outside the realm of possibility that she's also looking up legal consequences? Again, nothing to suggest that she did that, but we're looking at this case from the outside and trying to make sense of it. I want to ask you about her being charged as an adult. Now, that is important, as you and I both know, in terms of punishment, because juvenile court, generally speaking, is more about rehabilitation, mental health treatment, whereas in adult court, you're talking a prison term. You're talking a lengthy prison term. And it's our understanding, even if she is tried in adult court in Nevada, if she wasn't 18 years of age or older at the time of the killing, she couldn't face the death penalty. She couldn't face life without parole. But, anyway, the thoughts on her being tried as an adult, do you agree with that?
I do. And just on its simplest terms, right, for any lay person to kind of understand, I think the lens with which we need to look at this is what is the behavior actually done? If the behavior is something similar to what any random adolescent would engage in, then probably it should be in juvenile court. But the level of violence and the intricacy with which she had been planning and thinking about and getting herself to engage in this adult type behavior, right? When we think about a father and a child that's been murdered, we're usually thinking about an older person, right? An older adolescent or a teenager, maybe someone in their 20s having engaged in something like this. So I think the lens with which we see the behaviors suggests that this was a little bit more adult oriented in its thinking, despite everything else that she might have said. I think it's a little bit more adult oriented rather than just something that any random juvenile would be engaging.
It's so horrific to think about, whether in general, the deaths of these two individuals, but to think about that a family member did this in your experience. And we've talked about this before, but I think it's very important for the audience to hear. For a family member to kill another family member in this way, that's different, right? There's that level. You've talked about it before with me, and I think it's fascinating where you kind of disconnect and you don't look at that person even as a human being. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to think of a stranger as a total and complete object devoid of any humanity. It's a little bit easier to do that, but I think us as a species have a very difficult time engaging in violent behavior just overall. So, someone randomly killing someone else, I think we can kind of make sense about it. But someone not randomly killing, but finding someone within your family member, and there's no indicators that suggest that she was being abused in any way. There's a predatory aspect of it where the family, the bonds that were there because of blood, all of a sudden are so dissipated that she doesn't view these people as anyone that she should ever care about ever again. I mean, it's not just an object, it's literally just a thing that she could do whatever she wanted to do with.
And Dr. John, if you had the opportunity to interview her, what would you be asking her? What would you want to know?
Well, I definitely want to explore a little bit more about why she thought it was appropriate to look at the YouTube videos. What was she actually thinking about? What I would want to know is, was she keeping a diary or a journal about all of these things? Has she even attempted to talk to her father about maybe the parentification that she was experiencing? Having to take it, and that's a difficult job, taking care of someone with autism, right? While also having to take care of a toddler, right? Was she able to communicate her emotions to her father, and did they fall on deaf ears? Was there actual abuse occurring in the house, right? And what was that being appropriately investigated or reported? There's a lot of things that you have to really talk to an adolescent about that you probably don't have to talk to an adult about. But there, I would probably be spending hours, if not days, talking to her just about her entire life and figuring out how it all came together in this one moment to make this one decision.
Such a sad story. Psychologist Dr. John Delatorre, thank you so much for coming on, breaking it down.
Thanks, Jesse.
And that's all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.